Hey guys, it's time for another edition of Men in Stripes. It's the Monday Night Mayhem week as the Cincinnati Bengals will be going back to the Meadowlands for their second time this year to take on the New York Football Giants. Tim Daniel here, and who better to talk this with than my good hosts, my good friends, Shelby Dermer and Matt Wilson. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing all right.
Hanging in there.
Yeah? You guys seem so uppity and energetic like me today. I'm excited. I love it. I'm excited, Dwayne Wade's going back to Miami tonight, guys. I got a lot of things to look forward to tonight.
No one cares.
Shut your mouth. Yeah, they're pretty
This
terrible.
is a football program, Daniels.
Weren't we talking about baseball before we went live?
Yeah, we were.
And you got my last name wrong. Again.
I still say yes.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm terrible at that.
Yeah, it's a wrong
But when
answer.
I write it, I always write it correctly. That's the funny part.
It's in my Twitter handle. We're Facebook friends.
You realize it even says on the screen your name.
Yes. You are like...
That.
Let's get started with this, gentlemen, because we have, if a bye week could have been any better for the Cincinnati Bengals, they'd be in first place in the division right now. But, hey, guys, even at 3-4-1, they are still alive, and they're only a half game out of first place now. I can't help but laugh at that because of how bad the AFC North has been this year. But it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. So, we see last week the Baltimore Ravens take it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Matt, if you remember last week, I said Mike Williams would do something big in this game, and he did. Had the biggest play in the game. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they scored late in the game when it was over. They had the greatest onside kick I've ever seen in my life. Like, oh my God, that was the most wonderful thing ever.
Did you see him do it in college?
No, I didn't, but I don't care.
Absolutely executed that perfectly in college.
But it was awesome that he
I don't know who Mike Williams is.
I'm sorry, Mike Wallace. I'm thinking, I was reading college football prospects that the Bengals could draft before we got started tonight, so Mike Williams.
Oh, I thought you were just reading off how Matt pronounced his last name.
Thank you,
At
Shelby.
least I get most of the letters right.
Yeah. But other than that play that Mike Wallace has, the 95-yard, obviously he has a 100-yard game. I would hope he did. They get Steve Smith back, Baltimore does. And the defense played really well. I mean, they're very underrated against the run. I've seen in stats there. So, but I really was honestly not impressed with the Steelers by any stretch. No doubt about that there, obviously. But I also was very not impressed with the Baltimore Ravens either. So, Shelby, obviously we know this is a big win for the Bengals to keep them alive. They're not far out of it. If they get on a streak here after the bye, with a weird schedule being away, home, away, home, away, home, what did you take away from that game for Baltimore and how it helped Cincinnati?
I think you hit it best when you said you weren't impressed with the Steelers. You weren't impressed by the Ravens. From an offensive standpoint, you take away Wallace's big catch, and it was nice to see him outrun Mike Mitchell for about 60 yards there. Baltimore scored their other touchdown on a blocked punt. One of their field goals came courtesy of a tip pass that was intercepted. And then, like you said, the Steelers' offense was abysmal for the most part. And then suddenly something clicked when they were down 21-0. Ben was just terrible, and then just started pinpointing throws. But as far as helping the Bengals, it's a good year, not for the Bengals, but it's a good year for the AFC North to be terrible.
Right. I agree. I mean, this is very well a thing. If the Bengals can go 5-3, they could win the division at 8-7-1. Like, I really think that's possible and sad.
But you have to put into consideration though. Baltimore plays Cleveland for the second time tonight. Pittsburgh has the easiest schedule in the NFL in terms of winning percentage left, and but just something about bad teams that just have Pittsburgh's number, and I can't put my finger on why the Ravens can always give them such a game. If you remember last year in Baltimore,
Ryan Mallett.
Ryan Mallett was balling, dude.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and it was great. Pittsburgh went into Baltimore, double-digit favorites, laid an egg. Bengals clinched the division when they played on Monday night in Denver that day. So, maybe it's just something with Baltimore, but, Pittsburgh, hard to overlook how bad they were on Sunday.
For sure. So, Matt, I'm going to bring in the conversation here with that, man. You're in that area, so I'm sure
Yep.
you're hearing a lot of chatter, a lot of concern from them. It comes out today that not that he's a huge deal anymore, but DeAngelo Williams is going to be out at least 3 weeks, but don't believe the Steelers' injury report ever. And Le'Veon Bell is really struggling since he's come back from suspension. So what's the concern there? I mean, don't be wrong. I feel like, and I hate to say this, I feel like if there's any team that if they could air it out 70 times and win, it might be the Steelers, but I still feel like they really need Le'Veon Bell to get back going if they want to make a run at this thing.
Well, I mean, you've got Sammy Coates, who continuously drops balls.
Yep.
You have Martavis Bryant, Marcus Wheaton. Martavis Bryant suspended. You got Marcus Wheaton, who is, again, another inconsistent target for Big Ben.
Kobe Hamilton.
What's that?
Kobe Hamilton.
Yeah. You've got Antonio Brown's the only person that's actually being even something of a target on this team, and they're triple teaming him. I mean, they're triple teaming Antonio Brown to shut him down, and they're doing a good job of it. Teams are able to shut down. I mean, the only other player that you really have to worry about has been Jesse James of the tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been, for Big Ben, it's been a nightmare. And so they're going up against the Dallas team, which weirdly enough they're favored against by a couple points.
Because the home team gets 3 points.
Yeah.
It's in Pittsburgh, but the funny thing about that is the fact that they play good teams well.
Mm-hmm.
They play horrible teams horribly. And the big talk is, of course, they play down the teams. It's pretty evident. But even then, I mean, what you look at with Le'Veon Bell is you've got the game plan is shut down Antonio Brown and stop Le'Veon Bell. Because Jesse James is not Heath Miller.
Right.
We know that.
For sure. They're still
although,
waiting for Ladarius Green.
Well, and Ladarius Green, there's still some stipulation that he may never return to the NFL. They're still concerned that this whole concussion and headache and everything else that he's gone through just is near permanent. And if it happens one more time, he's officially done and very well could do too much damage to himself. So we're still waiting to see if he is even going to be ever going to play another game again, or if he does get injured again, if he'll even play a game after that.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you mentioned Antonio Brown, and, like, he's been good, obviously, but, like, since week one, he hasn't been Antonio Brown good. You know what I mean? Like, he's had some triple-digit receiving yard games, sure. He's had some century marks, but, like, when I watch Steeler games, I don't ever see him blowing by people anymore. I don't see his crisp route running. Like, I don't see that from him anymore. Maybe the Patriots game, they saw a little bit of it with Landry Jones, but they seem out of sync, which is a good thing. And the thing I feel bad for them, I don't really feel bad for anything Pittsburgh. Let's not lie here, guys. Their defense is not good at all. Like, they're very not good. I mean, they have guys to look to like Shazier and Tuitt, but Mike Mitchell has been, is really not good. Artie Burns has been very frustrating as a first-round draft pick for them. He got to start this week. When he's not body slamming people, he's not doing anything. So
a lot of injuries in their defense, though.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. Cam Hayward, who is the leader of that defense, this was his first game back. He's been injured for a large part of this season, and so it's going to be interesting getting their emotional leader back in Cam Hayward because he can make plays.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right with Mike Mitchell. He's been a joke. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
Did
you see what Steve Smith said?
And by the way,
I can't wait to hear that.
That was awesome.
For Pittsburgh fans, where's this Artie Burns was really supposed to be the pick, and William Jackson III was just a decoy.
That was hilarious.
The Bengals can never get one on the Steelers because we got to hear about it. Like, even if they do, like, at draft night when they took Jackson, and as we all know the story of me celebrating, they look at me and go, there's like Steeler fans in the section next to me, and they go, 6 Super Bowls, and I'm like, what the hell does that have to do with this at all?
You know what you should yell back? How many championships does the Green Bay Packers have?
Yeah, the Baltimore Ravens / Cleveland Browns franchise might actually have more than the Pittsburgh Steelers from the NFL championships, honestly.
That's like I was at the Dolphins-Bengals game. You were too, Tim. But I was sitting next to these two girls in this empty row because the game was almost over. And one girl had a Dolphins. She had a Dan Marino jersey on. And she was like, at the end of the game, her Bengal friend was bragging to her. And she was like, whatever, how many Super Bowls have the Bengals won? How many times have they went perfect in a perfect season and won this? I was like, you're not you were a '90s baby. I can tell. First of all, it's like I don't brag about the '88 Bengals that much.
Right.
But that was their best season. But like, come on, like when do we like what's the year like where you can brag about? Because the Steelers did win the Super Bowl over Arizona. I think it was '08. Can they still brag about that? I don't know.
No.
It's like how much of a window are you given? Because obviously, if you're a Broncos fan, you can brag about last year.
Absolutely.
If you're a Seahawks fan, maybe 3 years ago, and they've been good for a while. But are the 2010 Packers? Can they still? I don't know. It's confusing, but it gets frustrating when you're a Bengals fan and you got to hear about 6 Super Bowls, and especially since Baltimore won one recently in 2012.
Right.
I can brag about the Green Bay Packers winning the 2010 NFL championship because that was the day my daughter was actually born.
Nice.
And by the way, she was born at 6 a.m. on the 6th. Oh yeah, the Steelers lost by 6.
Illuminati.
To make it even better, there was a bunch of 6s that.
Your daughter's the Illuminati, Matt.
We'll have to look into that. I'll start the article.
So, guys,
that was the funny part, and I made fun of Steelers fans, telling them that since my daughter's been born, she's the curse of the Steelers fans as long as we live in Pittsburgh.
Fair enough. So, let's touch on the next topic here real quick.
And she is a Bengals fan.
I know. Well, that's true. Your wife's a Titans fan, so is she split down the middle, which is totally acceptable?
No. It's she sees the Bengal and she's like, "Look, Daddy, it's a big kitty." I have used the Bengal tiger to win my daughter.
Awesome. That's very clutch, my friend. So, guys, let's touch on this next topic here real quick. Matt, we touched on it a little bit last week on our show. But, Shelby, you're back this week, and I'm really excited to get your thoughts on this. We know this Bengals defensive line has not been what we thought they'd be. We know they need some help. Though I have liked Carlos Dunlap's season, minus the London game. Wallace Gilberry back, a guy that knows the system. He's wearing old 95 again. He said his heart has always been here in the first place, even though he was playing in Detroit for half the season. Overall, for you and your eyes, big move, good move, bad move, small move. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a nice story, just because he's a veteran and a familiar face around the locker room. But I don't know how much production they're looking to get out of him. At his last 2 seasons in Cincinnati combined, he had 3.5 sacks. And, I mean, that's really what the pass rush – that's what the defense has been lacking is a pass rush. So, I mean, it's great to have a veteran face around to kind of tutor the youngsters like Will Clark and Marcus Hunt that have had good seasons so far. Mm-hmm. But from a production standpoint, this guy's not going to come in here from an abdominal injury and in his first week and put up big numbers on a defense where he's going to be in a rotation with Michael Johnson, who's been a disappearing act, and Carlos Dunlap, who's really been the only degree of consistency on the defensive front. But overall, I mean, you're not going to say it was a bad move just because he knows the system. He knows what Paul Guenther likes to do. And like Domata Peko said, he's like, the boys are back. So you only look at it from a positive standpoint, but from a production value, you can't expect too much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like the idea of Gunther's talked about potentially moving him in as far as rotating spots for Peko. As this is a team that's still waiting to get Andrew Billings and Brandon Thompson back, which I don't expect to see either of them obviously this year, by any stretch of the matter. But I like bringing him in, and I think it's a decent move there. So Matt, bring you back here all this as well. So one of the topics this week was, Paul Guenther was all about things are going to change and some depth chart moves are going to be made. And one guy that seems to be pretty excited about that, if you read the Cincinnati Enquirer's Paul Dinger Jr.'s article this morning, was Darqueze Dennard, a guy who's been very frustrated. We know I've written about Darqueze, and I love the prospect that he brings to the table. I think that he has played well when he's had his opportunity, though this year he's kind of been still battling some injuries, as you can tell, and kind of getting his feet underneath him. But it's looking, if you read the article and you see how he's acting, one of those changes could potentially be that Darqueze Dennard might be a starting cornerback Monday night against the New York Football Giants. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's time for him to get this chance? Do you think it's more or less the Bengals trying to give him a lick to see if they want to pick up his option at the end of the year?
Well, I think that's part of it, but I think really what it's about is, we saw Dre Kirkpatrick. We've had some frustrations with Dre Kirkpatrick. We know obviously what Kirkpatrick brings, but at the same time, Adam Jones has lost a step. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that Darqueze Dennard is really going to be challenged with is the aspect of, can he really guard a Sterling Shepard or a Victor Cruz? Victor Cruz being a huge veteran for New York. And, of course, Sterling Shepard being another one of the young guys who was supposed to really complement Odell Beckham Jr. And so, one thing I think that it's going to be a good test for him for is obviously speed, but also his ability to kind of close the gap. Because Eli Manning, we've seen him be very good, and we've seen him be very bad already this season.
Yeah.
When he's very bad, he underthrows, which would give Darqueze Dennard a great opportunity if Eli Manning really is the bad Eli Manning come Monday night. If it's the good Eli Manning, he's going to have that closing speed. So that's one thing I think you're really going to have to look at. The other thing that might be interesting and something that you might see him do, because no offense, Adam Jones has lost a step. I wouldn't be shocked if they try to throw him and at least early on check the matchup of him versus Odell Beckham.
I actually agree with that, and the only reason I do agree with that was, and this is obviously a little in the past, I was at the game a couple years ago. It was his rookie year, and when they played Pittsburgh, and they in the red zone they put him on Antonio Brown, and he didn't let Antonio Brown do a thing. Let's go back to Monday night last year, minus the Houston game. Obviously, Hopkins makes an amazing catch on Adam Jones. But when they put Darqueze on him, again, Darqueze did not let him catch a pass. So, Shelby, this is a kid that hasn't had a lot of chances. He's been a very high-paid special teams player. He's a guy that when he has had a chance to play, he's made plays. He's been a very good blitzing corner. He's been a good run stopper. He had a really nice interception against Buffalo last year when but these are all these little things he had a chance to play here. This guy's a former Thorpe winner. I'm really excited to see this because other than that, like I said, he's been nothing more than a very well paid special teamer.
Yeah. Well, a couple things, with Hopkins, it was Brian Hoyer and TJ Yates throwing to him.
True.
You got to factor that in. His interception against Buffalo was an underthrow by EJ Manuel up the seam. But, Dennard, he does make plays. Like you said, the Thorpe winner, and you remember the playoffs against the Colts, he stripped Boom Herron up the sidelines right before halftime. It led to Nugent's 57-yarder, gave the Bengals some momentum. Of course, they couldn't keep it into the second half, but still, it was an enormous play. But, I like the move simply for a couple reasons. One, I think it kind of shows that Gunther's not all talk. It'd be very easy for him to say, okay, we're going to make some changes and then stick with the rotation. And also it kind of gives Dre Kirkpatrick and Pac-Man a kick in the butt. It's like, Pac-Man, we just re-signed you, and now, Pro Football Focus has you graded lower than usual. We're one of the worst teams as far as scoring after being the best in the AFC last season. And, I think with all these young corners the Bengals have drafted, at some point you got to throw them into the fire and say, okay, you're the future of this secondary. It's the same with Josh Shaw, but, of course, Shaw is working in the nickel, or not the nickel, sorry, the slot. So it kind of Dennard is behind Jones and Kirkpatrick on the depth chart, but overall you have to like the move, and Gunther having confidence in a guy that has shown flashes and really is finally getting his chance to prove why he was taken in the first round.
100% agreed. So I'm excited about that. I think that, I know I wrote that article a few weeks back about them drafting cornerbacks and, how it might be time to make that change there. To me, the ideal thing would be the set would be, you keep Adam Jones, obviously. I'm not saying bench him, but Adam Jones and Dre, you get Darqueze and Josh Shaw in there. And I think at some point you got to carry Kivari Russell to see what he can bring your team to. We're still waiting for William Jackson to come back. I don't expect him, obviously we're not expecting to see him till training camp of next year. Maybe OTAs, I should say. But at some point, that's a kid who has some talent, who's a very good zone corner. I think it's time that he gets his chance to really see what he can do as well for the secondary. And I'm not just saying that because he's a Notre Dame guy, I promise.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, Russell was a third-round pick for the Chiefs. I mean, he was taken in the third round for a reason. And, at some point, with Jackson coming back, and this is going to be a young secondary, and, if they can increase that talent to the next level, and, there's a reason we got rid of Leon Hall,
yep.
Who we'll see this Monday night.
Yep.
Maybe. I'm not sure if he's hurt or not still.
He got a sack this year.
What did he do?
I wish our audience could have seen your face there. It was amazing.
But I think Russell would be. I mean, it's also about finding a roster spot for him.
Right.
I was shocked they waived Chris Lewis Harris.
Me too.
Someone that I think we all agreed was, one of our up and comers. Certainly they trusted him to cover Antonio Brown on that controversial play in the playoff game, but you had to find a place for Wallace Gilberry. But it may not be this year with Russell. I'm not expecting him to be this year, but down the road, you can only think that a guy who was taken in the third round by the Chiefs, a team that desperately needed secondary help outside Marcus Peters.
Yeah.
It's easy to believe that he can do something down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we keep touching on some news before we get to go and break down Monday night, just a reminder, this is Men in Stripes brought to you by StripePipe.com, a fan-sided exclusive network. Matt, Ray Malaluga, outsies Monday night, it's looking like. So I'll ask you, is it Nick Vigil time, bro?
I hope so. Because I don't think Vincent Ray's not terrible to back up Ray Malaluga, but at the same time, I want to see Nick Vigil. I want to see what he can do, especially against this Giants team. They need a different look, and they started a couple weeks, now 2 weeks ago with the actual factor of blitzing. It was a weird factor this year, I know, but the fact of blitzing against the Redskins, I would love to see how Nick Vigil can kind of seal up that middle position. And so, I know in the depth chart he's behind Vontaze, officially on the depth chart. But I think he's young. I think he's somebody who can get the job done. And he's supposed to be the future of this team, isn't he?
I mean, they used a third-round pick on him.
Yep.
He's a talented kid. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
He could potentially be a steal in the draft. We know how well Duke Tobin and company draft. So, he's a kid they trust. And we saw, in the preseason he played well. He had a really nice pick, I think, in the last preseason
against
game.
the Colts.
Yeah, I know. It was probably like Jim Sorgi throwing on the ball, but he looked good when he had the chance to play. And I like what he brings to the table. I don't know if he's 100% ready for the NFL game and that speed. He's been, I know he's been on the kickoff team, but this is a perfect time to see what they have in this guy. As they're trying to make this move, Shelby, you said you were really excited that Gunther was stuck to his guns with what he said about that. Carlos Dansby has been very disappointing since the Steeler game. So, Will Tye is probably going to have a big game because tight end versus Bengal, we know how that goes. So, Shelby, I'm 100% down for him passing downs, putting Vigil in there to go against Tye, as I've had that physical, fast body to go head-to-head with him.
Yeah, you stole it from me there, Tim. Daniel, no S. Yeah, if there were a game that Nick Vigil could have a big impact in, I would say it's this one. The Giants have the NFL's worst rushing attack. Rashard Jennings and Shane Vereen. You got to watch Shane Vereen out of the backfield too, on top of covering Will Tye. So you're going to see Dansby, but at the linebacker spot, I would pick Vinny Ray over Vigil any day of the week just because of his experience and how he flies all over the field. But for this particular matchup, I would love to see Vigil in there, just because the Giants are primarily a passing team with a guy that's won a couple Lombardi trophies. So I'm completely down with Gunther sticking to his guns and seeing how those new moves play out.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this kid get his chance to play. Did they bring up Alex Roach for this game, or is he still on practice squad?
I want to say he's still on practice squad.
Okay. Other question while we're at that. Does PJ Dawson ever come off the practice squad for this team again?
Didn't he get waived, or is he still on the practice squad?
Still on the practice squad as far as I know.
Okay. That's who I was going to bring up, but I didn't know he was on the practice squad. But there was a lot of hype around him
yeah.
For a while, but
because Marquise Flowers has kind of been like, what you expect of a fifth-round linebacker. I loved him at Arizona. I thought he was super talented. So I do think that he still has a chance to really, be like a good role player for this team. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Vigil brings. I'm with you guys there. So while we're at it, guys, let's touch on it. We've already discussed a little bit of this Giants game and what's going on there. Shelby made mention this is a terrible rushing attack. I really think they're going to go to Paul Perkins a little bit in this game and try to get that thing going. He's a rookie with a high upside that they really like. We know that Odell Beckham is really good. I've said my things about Odell Beckham and how frustrating he is, and how the press coverages he gets. But we know that he is a threat. Victor Cruz, when he, I think I saw that he was hurt again, but I think their game plan is for him to play Monday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sterling Shepard has really stepped in as a good rookie for this team as far as playing that slot position there. The Giants have weapons. And, honestly, I like their secondary. Guys like Landon Collins have played really well for them. So, that's an interesting thing there. But I think what this game is really going to come down to is, one, I don't think the Giants necessarily have anyone they're going to be able to put in there to take Tyler Eifert out of his routes. Two, the Bengals offensive line we know has had a lot of problems. The Giants don't get sacks either. And three, as long as 14 takes care of the ball, I know he had a rough game in London, but really he had 6 bad plays. And people just took those 6 bad plays and put them out for the world to see. I feel like I trust 14 and co. to really go in there on Monday night and really be able to take care of, play with this team and fight with them. I feel like they will win. I'll get to my reasons why, but I think when you look at it overall, our rushing attack is better. I think our receiver is better than theirs, number 1 versus number 1. And I like our tight end compared to theirs. And sadly, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I like our front 7 more than I like theirs.
Well, with the Bengals, they have to, first of all, special teams is going to be crucial in this game.
Yes.
Just because we've had the struggles with Nugent just a couple weeks ago. The bye week kind of calmed that down. But the missed extra point in London really hurt. Obviously, that was the difference in the score.
Yeah.
But, last week, the last 2 weeks, actually, the Giants, Landon Collins had a big pick 6 against the Rams in London. Mm-hmm. And then last week, Philadelphia left a lot of points on the board. The Giants let Carson Wentz throw for 364 against them. But the Eagles kind of shot themselves in the foot. They had a chip shot field goal. Caleb Sturgis got it blocked. And then twice they went for it on 4th and short inside Giants territory, didn't get it. So the Giants, watching that game, since obviously the Bengals were off, it felt like the Giants kind of got away with one there because it was such a good game. So it's going to be one of those contests that I think is going to be a close game down the stretch that the Bengals have to win on the majority of all 3 phases of the game. But I know I kind of skipped a beat here and got into the reasons on why they should win, but
sure.
For me, the biggest thing has to be pass rush because if I said it with Dak Prescott, I believe I said it with Kirk Cousins also, and both times it turned out to be the case where, you don't get pressure on a guy, and Eli Manning, as inconsistent as he's been over the course of his career, you give him time, he's going to pick you apart. And from Trevor Siemian to Prescott to Big Ben to Tom Brady, we've seen that all too often this year that, the Bengals are susceptible to that if they can't get heat on the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that we're going to have to see this week is we're going to have to see Brendan LaFell step up, because Landon Collins is going to go over the top of A.J. Green on a lot of plays, and you're going to have Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie most likely covering A.J.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you have two very, very good secondary players there on A.J. That leaves Brandon LaFell. And granted, I mean, you're going to see him kind of go up against Janoris Jenkins. You might see him, depending on what side he lines up on, but you might see Eli Manning. Okay, yeah. Eli Apple on him a little bit. And so you have a rookie there. You have Janoris Jenkins, who's done a fairly good job of shutting down a second wide receiver. At least he did last week against the Eagles. And so really it comes down to for the Bengals, comes down to your number 2 and 3 wide receiver, Tyler Eifert, and your running game. Because I do think, as much as I would love to see A.J. Green get another 100-plus yard game, get 11, 12 targets, get 8 catches, I think this week he's gonna get taken away a little bit.
I don't.
Of course you don't.
I think they're going to try.
Yeah.
I absolutely think they're going to try.
Yeah, I mean, what has the story been all year besides the Steelers game?
I think, wasn't there one other game too?
The Cowboys, but that's irrelevant.
Okay. I was going to say, there was 2 games there.
But I like Matt's point, though, with Brandon LaFell, because it's definitely going to be interesting to see, because, Cleveland game, Tyler Eifert was so limited, and, the Bengals ran the ball very well with the lead. But, last week in a close game, Eifert was in there. He got a lot of looks. He went over 100 yards. And then Brandon LaFell, 4 touchdowns the last 4 games. Then he goes to London. I think he only got 1 target.
Yeah. Caught
it for 6 yards. So how are the Bengals going to balance that out? I mean, I agree, LaFell can. It's gonna be a key, but between A.J. Green getting double-digit targets, Tyler Eifert probably getting double-digit targets, Jeremy Hill and Gio splitting the backfield carries, and not to mention Tyler Boyd had a few key third down plays there in the slot at Wembley Stadium. It's going to be interesting to see how they split up the football, really, and as much as I say that and how it looks crowded, I still want them to get Giovanni Bernard the ball more out of the backfield.
Agreed.
I'm fine with him getting the amount of carries he is, but time and time again we've seen him from the slot with a linebacker trying to cover him, and he beats him 99% of the time, and it's just difficult to ask. It's difficult to see why they're not using him more out of the backfield with a slow linebacker covering. I mean, sure works out for James White of the Patriots against Carlos Dansby, and you think Mr. Zampese would put that in his playbook, but Gio, he's been one of the best pass blocking running backs in the NFL actually. Yeah, so I mean there's that, and as we know, the offensive line needs as much help as you can get.
Yep.
But he's a playmaker. He's a change of pace back. He's shifty. He breaks tackles, and he turns minimal gains into positive ones. And I would really love to see them, him or Rex Burkhead in the slot.
Yeah. I agree. So I've said this a million times this year, Shelby, before you came on the show. The Jacksonville preseason game, the Bengals ran that formation where they lined you up as a slot and ran a wide receiver screen with him with Hill in the backfield. And AJ made a really nice block there. And Gio took it to the house in that game. Yep. I think they need more of that. I think they need to, I think really Giovanni Bernard might be the best running back besides Theo Riddick and Darren Sproles. I think
and Le'Veon Bell.
And Le'Veon Bell. I think those are the only 3 you can say are better than him at running routes. And so, I think, I agree with you. He's got to get involved. He's got to go make things happen. Sam Pease has to put the ball in his hands because he does, he is the guy that makes things happen. But at that same point, I know it's been a little rocky and up and down for Jeremy Hill this year. I still feel like he's about to have that breakout. And I know that's weird to say considering his game against Cleveland, but I have a feeling that Jeremy Hill is just going to have one of those games this week where he might get like 75, 80 yards. He's going to get in the end zone. And the only reason I do think that is because his best friend is on the other side of the field. And his best friend is a guy that he wants to beat. I'm pretty sure they've had that discussion. So, going on the defensive side, Matt, how do they stop Odell Beckham? What do they do?
Well, number one, you're going to have either Iloka or Williams going over the top very, very regularly.
You can't play him in man.
What's that?
You can't play him in man. You can't.
No, absolutely not. You have to play a safety over the top on him. You can't let him run free. And that's something I think that the Bengals really do need to focus on. I think that's something that we would see if he was part of the team, Reggie Nelson do very well. And that's take away Odell Beckham over the top, because that's one thing he always did well. In a man-on-man coverage, he would just go up and grab the ball. One hand, two hands, it didn't matter. You take that safety over the top, though, now you have somebody who's not only going to be playing him, but playing the ball and focused on the ball, where your corner is going to be focused on him. So I think playing him over the top is going to be a key for them. But at the same time, you can't forget about their others. I mean, Victor Cruz just has experience, and if he does play in this game, if he is even 75% healthy, he's got a good football mind, and he knows how to look for space, and he knows how to find space, and at least give Eli Manning a chance. And with that too, I mean, you're looking at Sterling Shepard, another young talent who I think a lot of people in New York are very excited about and have been very excited about. And so you've got kind of a three-headed monster there. You've got the intelligence with the experience in Victor Cruz, still not who he used to be by any means. You've got Sterling Shepard, who is a good young talent, and you have Odell Beckham Jr., who is somewhat Calvin Johnson when it comes to ridiculous catches.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't like him because we think AJ is better, and people keep saying for some odd reason Odell's better. We know that, especially you, Tim.
No comment.
Daniel.
So
here's my thing. You asked him that. Well, first off, what we get tired of with Beckham is all the off the field, on the sideline antics, and the fact that he can make a jumping catch out of bounds that's incomplete, and NFL.com will put it up as like an amazing, never before seen play.
Don't forget him hugging the field goal net.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's no. You asked how they stop him, and I don't think you can stop him. You can contain him like the Bengals did Antonio Brown in Week 2, but that's why I emphasize the pass rush so much, is because if you let Eli Manning go through his progressions, like you said, Matt, he is going to find that three-headed monster with Sterling, Victor Cruz, and Odell Beckham, and not to forget the other tight end, Larry Donnell.
Yeah.
Big physical guy. Kind of looks like Jermaine Gresham. I mean, I'm saying that because they both wear 84, but he's a very big red zone threat, and that's why the Giants are 5-3 with the worst offensive running attack, is because Eli's had such a good success. So that's just why I continually preach how much pass rush means, and that's pass rush is what gave the Bengals a 29-point win over this Giants team back in 2012 and started that big run.
Yeah. So my last point that I think is really big for this game before I go and make my pick is Mike Nugent and Kevin Huber need to find a way to not get Dwayne Harris the ball. They need to kick the ball away from him as much as possible. I do not want that guy taking one to the house on us. And with that being said, I expect a shootout, honestly. I think A.J. Green and Odell Beckham are both going to go triple digits. I think that it's going to come down to who steps up after those two. And I think that the group of Tyler Eifert, Brandon LaFell, and Tyler Boyd might be slightly better than Will Tye and co. I like the Bengals to win this game. I like the Bengals to win this game by with a lot of points scored. I'm going to go and say that I think they win this one 37-31.
Jeez. I'm gonna go with the Giants on this one, like 31-28, just because I like that they said that the coaches said they had the best practice of the season on Tuesday or what have you, but until you start seeing a pass rush more consistent, quarterbacks, whether it's Trevor Siemian, Tom Brady, or now Eli Manning, are continuously going to pick you apart. And there's no one on the defense that stepped up that can cover a tight end. Jordan Reed, and it's not even that they're getting beat by tight ends; they're just leaving them wide open. Jordan Reed would catch it past his touchdown. There was no one within 8 yards of him. And third down, soft coverage on the outside. And I really hope this team has a kick in the butt and comes out and has a great outing. But it's a primetime game. It's on the road. They're honoring Justin Tuck and Tom Coughlin. I just think too many variables, mostly on the defensive side, weigh in, and I think the Giants win a close game.
I'm going to go Bengals. I'm probably going to reverse that. I'm going to go 31-28 Bengals. I think Richard Sherman said it best when he said that if Andy Dalton would treat A.J. Green like Richard Sherman said, just let him go up and get the ball. Don't treat him like a yards after catch type receiver. Just throw it up, let him get the ball on the sidelines. He's going to win those battles 9 times out of 10. And I love that fact. And so if Andy can find a way to get it to AJ and give him the advantage by throwing him the ball and using his height and his hands to their advantage, I think AJ is going to be a difference maker. I really, really hope this running game gets going. I see Jeremy Hill. I'm gonna, what? I would love to see him get triple digits this week. I think there's a possibility. I think if I think if they can get him in space, if he can hit his holes and make his blocking reads, I think there's a very good chance that he gets triple digits this week. And I would love to see Giovanni Bernard play a bigger factor out of the backfield with screenplay, checkdowns, and slot receiver. I mean, that's ultimately what I think is going to be the keys of the game for the Bengals. For the Giants, you got to use the three-headed monster as well as Shelby said, Larry Donnell. Get him the ball, and the Bengals have to stop him. And so this is going to be an offensive match. I don't think the defenses are going to. I think the defense, if they can get a turnover, it's going to be a matter of the one team who can make the fewest mistakes on offense.
I'm not sure this is a must-win for the Bengals. I mean, it certainly would help. Baltimore's playing Cleveland tonight. Baltimore has a very tough schedule after this. They still have to play Dallas. They still have to play New England. Pittsburgh, after this week, when they play Dallas, has a relatively easy schedule. But I'm just looking at the Bengals quarterback right now, and it would be a great shame if the Andy Dalton we've seen since the start of last season doesn't get a chance in the playoffs.
Agreed. 100% agreed. So, guys, let's go ahead and go through this real quick. It is pick time. It's time to see, what's going on, how we feel about these games coming up in the NFL. So let's start with tonight, Thursday night. The 0-9 Cleveland Browns, wearing their ugly color rush of all brown, going to play the all-purple Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore this week. I tell you what, guys, I'm feeling an upset. I'm just kidding. The Ravens will win this one.
Cleveland will win this game. Yeah. Cleveland will win this game. Joe Flacco is throwing more interceptions and touchdowns. The Browns will be hungry to stop their former running back Terrence West, who struggled the last 2 weeks on the field and in my fantasy lineup. Cody Kessler, not bad. I mean, he's only thrown one pick. I mean, he has been injured, and this is the same Browns team. I know Josh McCown was the quarterback, but this is the same Browns team that had a 20-0 lead on this Ravens team back in Week 2. So I think it has all the makings of an upset, and Baltimore's riding high after beating the Steelers at home, and now they think this is going to be a walkover game, and I think it's a rewind to 2008 when the winless Miami Dolphins pulled out a win over the Ravens.
I'm going to go Browns, and the reason I'm going to go Browns here is just because the Browns almost had a win against Baltimore. What was it, week 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of one of those games that we call, it's a divisional trap game. And so the Browns have shown success against the Ravens, and especially with Collins now coming over, I think he could make a difference, and I think Agba is going to have a sack tonight.
Packers at Titans. Shelby, a must-win for the Green Bay Packers.
And they will get it. First off, I'd like to point out that I finally know someone on the Browns defense. But I will take the Packers. Aaron Rodgers has looked, the Colts game, he didn't look too hot, but, the weeks before that, Atlanta, Chicago, he looked great. And, Marcus Mariota is so up and down, and that's what you're going to get from a young quarterback. I think the Packers win this game 30-23.
Must win for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers seems to thrive in pressure situations. I'm going Packers.
I'm taking Packers also. In that same division, talk about teams that have hit a rock bottom and have struggled quite a bit. The Minnesota Vikings travel to the Washington Redskins, Shelby.
Yeah, Minnesota's at that place where SpongeBob is trying to get on the bus. That's how low they are with the big rock wall.
Yeah.
If you remember, remember that episode
I like
with the bus that keeps moving.
I can't understand.
It's been weird. I thought this was a Vikings team that was going to go 13-3, 14-2 with Sam Bradford, and now their weaknesses are showing. Their offensive line is the worst in the NFL. They're clinging on to the division now. I'm going to take the Redskins just because Kirk Cousins has been playing well lately, and Robert Kelly ran the ball well against the Bengals, and that Vikings defense is starting to show holes.
Yeah, Vikings defense is showing holes. I agree with that. However, it is still Mike Zimmer, and it's still Mike Zimmer's defense, and it's still Jay Gruden's offense. And yeah, it's still Jay Gruden's offense. I don't know how else you can say that. I'm not taking the Vikings as much as I would like to buy, but I'm still taking the Vikings.
I will take the Vikings also.
Yeah, but that's a defense that lost to Carson Wentz and Jay Cutler.
Carson Wentz has actually been half decent. Jay Cutler sucks, I'll give you that one. But Ben Roethlisberger lost to the Dolphins, so what's your point?
That Jay Ajayi went off that game and Roethlisberger hurt his knee.
Also true. Bears, Buccaneers. Shelby, is this going to be the return of Doug Martin?
Well, he's been on my fantasy bench for 2 years, so I'm still not going to play him because if he does come back, he's not going to play that much. Patrick Barber,
Peyton,
wherever they got him from. Peyton, thank you. But I think the Buccaneers win this game. I think an offensive shootout. Maybe I think it's going to be a close game because the Bears' defense is head and shoulders above Tampa Bay's.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I believe Tampa Bay's playing at home. Is that correct?
They are.
So I'm going to roll with the home team like 27-24.
Buccaneers, Mike Evans has a big game.
Yeah, Mike Evans is just going to be too much, so I do like Jordan Howard to have a big day for the Bears as well. So that brings us to the Kansas City Chiefs going to Carolina to play the Panthers. And Matt, the Panthers might be getting their legs back underneath them of late.
Cam Newton's not.
I have Cam Newton in fantasy. I'm between him and Jameis Winston. I really hope the Kansas City Chiefs lose this game for the purpose of still keeping a wild card hope alive. And don't get me wrong, division for the Bengals is still within reach, but having that wild card backup is always nice. So, thinking playoff implications, I'm going to go with the Panthers on this one, especially at home.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the Panthers too, and that's a good reminder, Matt, for anyone listening to always root for the NFC when they play the AFC.
Yep.
But this is the perfect storm for the Panthers. They can't stop the pass. They stop the run really well. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs run the ball really well and can't pass most of the time. And I don't know if Alex Smith is going to play. He has a little bit more more mobility than Nick Foles, but I think this lines up pretty well for the Panthers, who are playing pretty well, and as are the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong, but with it being in Carolina and riding a 2-game winning streak, I think the Panthers win a close, low-scoring game.
I agree. I like the Panthers in this one. I think that one thing is really, we talk about this Chiefs team, but they, this is a team that really is missing those guys like Justin Houston, though I think they're planning on him being back this week. Yes, but I just feel like home's going to be big for this team. We know Cam is a superhero at home, so hopefully they get it back this week. So, Matt, that brings us to the Michael Vick Bowl as the Atlanta Falcons at 6-3, riding high, go face Carson Wentz and the 4-4 Philadelphia Eagles.
Man, the Eagles are a tough pick here. I really want to pick the home team, but I'm going to go the Falcons. Falcons have been riding a very good win streak. I hate Julio Jones, but Julio Jones has done fairly well. I think he's going to have a big game here. Carson Wentz continues to struggle.
How can you hate Julio Jones? He's outstanding.
Well, I love him as a player.
You hate the argument.
I hate the argument.
They're 1A, 1B right now. They got to be.
Yeah. I want AJ Green to be the best in the league.
I do too.
Hands down.
A year ago, Julio had like 200 targets.
Right.
But I'm taking the Falcons also, just because they're at home, and everyone's waiting for Matt Ryan. They're away.
Yeah.
Falcons are away. Still going to take them.
Yeah.
Even though it's out of the dome, a little bit out of their element, but everyone's waiting for Matt Ryan and the Falcons to regress, and I just really don't see it coming. So I'm going to take the Falcons.
I'm going to take the Falcons too, strictly because as much as I like what Carson Wentz has done his rookie year, they're now counting on Darren Sproles to be their number one running back. And it's not that Sproles isn't talented, but he's not a number one running back. So if he's your best option, you got to be concerned, even against the Falcons defense that hasn't been that good truly throughout the year. But I like Atlanta. I like Matty Ice to keep it going. So that brings us to, and I can't believe we actually have to cover this game, the 3-5 Los Angeles Rams playing the 3-6 New York Jets. I tell you what, guys, I don't think Todd Gurley's going to be able to run the ball again this week, as much as that pains me to say, because he's so good. So good. And he just never gets his things going there. I like Brandon Marshall a lot in this game. But then again, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, you never know who's going to show up. But I think for the home's sake, I'll pick the Jets, because Case Keenum has definitely hit his ceiling and started to come down to his floor, which is probably about like this much difference.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Jets too, and their defense is still very above average, and I see them stopping the run with Todd Gurley, and I think Darrelle Revis might have a pick in this game finally, and Case Keenum loves to throw it to the opposite jersey, and as much as Ryan Fitzpatrick's been struggling, Matt Forte's still bringing it. Even with the new team, so I like the Jets in another low-scoring, close game.
This definitely isn't a quarterback battle, although maybe with who makes the least mistakes.
Well, maybe with the youth quarterback battle, if they would play him.
You're right.
Yeah.
But I want to go Jets just because I want the win to come on Sunday and not Monday. In the Meadowlands. No, I think you're right. I think Matt Forte's played well. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to have a half-decent game. I think Aaron Donald's probably going to put a little bit of pressure on him.
You love him.
Oh, Aaron Donald's the man. And rightfully so. I mean, he's a talented player. So, for me, I still think the issue is going to be keeping Fitzpatrick upright with that defensive line that the Rams have. But past that, I think that's pretty much all they're going to have all they can do against that team. I'm going Jets.
So we go a clean sweep on the Jets there. Guys, I don't know if we know this or not, but I'm sure Shelby does looking at statistics like he does. The Denver Broncos are vulnerable on defense. They can't stop the run. Here's the thing. The New Orleans Saints have learned to run. Mark Ingram and Tim Hightower have really been playing really well, and then they've been a good rotation. With one's not playing well, the other is. Last week they both played well. I know, it was San Francisco. And it's in the Superdome. We all know Drew Brees is like a superhero there. He turns into Super Breeze. And I think that they're going to feel a breeze going by them this week. I'm taking the Saints. That's my upset this week.
Yeah, I don't think it's an upset at all. With Trevor Siemian, his completion percentage has gone down every game since the Bengals. I think teams are finally getting more footage on him and knowing he has trouble throwing into tight windows. And yeah, when the Jeremy Hill went off against the Broncos, I thought it was a turning point. And then I realized, everyone's running against the Broncos. So, but like you said, Hightower and Ingram, good duo in the backfield. And even though it was San Francisco, they both played well. And I think Ingram had a 75-yard touchdown run.
He did.
If I'm not mistaken. That guy running 75 yards against the defense, wow. It's just he looks like a big guy. I mean,
right.
But yeah, I always like Drew Brees, especially at home.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, Drew Brees at home is very tough to beat, and although teams have done this year, he is a very good quarterback in the dome. He is a mediocre quarterback out of the dome. Broncos show a lot of weakness. By the way, Bing has them as a 61% favorite. I'm going Saints.
I'm going to ignore that comment you had at the end about Drew Brees there.
Don't know about the mediocre word out of the dome.
Yeah.
But we will point out the Bengals beat Drew Brees twice in the dome. 2006, Ethan Kilmer had a game-winning pick six.
Oh, my God.
And then
that
2014 was probably the most shocking game on the Bengals schedule because
they
it was
dominated.
right after Dalton put up a 2.0 QBR against the Browns on Thursday night. Then he drops a 300-burger on the Saints. And somehow they hold Drew Brees to 10 points. Jermaine Gresham recovers his own fumble in the end zone. A fan steals a football away from that girl. I don't know. It was a whole lot of – I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I agree. So, guys –
By the way, he has three how many games – has he played equal games on the road versus at home?
No, but he has a Super Bowl, and that wasn't in a dome.
I'm talking about this year, by the way.
He had, 2 bad games away from the dome. Yes, I agree. But – he's had some good ones too. But hey, this is supposed to be a quick round, okay, Matt? It's supposed to be quick.
We can't even keep a
Jaguars, Texans. I think the Texans are the worst 5-3 team in the NFL, but sadly, I think they're better than the Jaguars. I think, unfortunately, we're gonna live in a world where the Houston Texans are 6-3 and the Bengals might be 4-1.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Texans, too. When is Gus Bradley going to get fired? Oh, my gosh. But Houston, is it in Jacksonville?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Houston gets their first road win of the season, and Brock Osweiler's lack of confidence leads them to another win.
It's away from Houston. It's in Jacksonville. I'm going Jaguars because I just don't think Houston can win away from Houston. At least they haven't proved it yet this season. So if they do, good for them. But I'm gonna go with the odds here. I'm gonna go Jacksonville.
So now we have the Miami Dolphins, who surprisingly are 4-4, taking on the San Diego Superchargers at 4-5. They got to go to the West Coast. We all know how much East Coast teams love to go to the West Coast, unless you're the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. And well, minus the Arizona game. But I really like what Melvin Gordon's doing in San Diego, man. He is just taking over games. I like what Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates are doing as a tandem. And the Chargers really are better than their record has shown. They just had a lot of late games that they've blown. So I think that the Chargers will be 5-5 here, which sadly will put them in last place at 500 in their division.
Yeah. I like the Chargers in this game, too, just because they've played against great competition this year, and they could be 6-2 right now.
Yeah.
But I really want to watch this game just because it's the future of the running back position, it looks like. Mm-hmm. Melvin Gordon and Jay Ajayi, the last 3 or 4 weeks, fantastic numbers. Ajayi just put up 100 and a touchdown against the Jets defense we were just complimenting a few minutes ago. I think a lot of running games it's going to be a great running game. And, finally, Phillip Rivers has something to turn and hand the ball off to. And thankfully, because he's working without Keenan Allen, he's working with a very old Antonio Gates. He doesn't have Darius Green anymore. Danny Woodhead's out for the season. And, this Chargers team's one of a pleasant surprise this year, and the record doesn't indicate that. And I think they get a win this year. This Sunday, sorry.
I'm going, By the way, the Bengals comment, they also beat the 49ers at Levi Stadium last year.
With A.J. McCarron.
Big win.
What?
With A.J. McCarron at that.
Yeah, true.
The ugliest win I've ever seen the Bengals have.
Yeah, dude.
You're right there. I'm gonna keep with Miami. They've not done me wrong so far. So since the Steelers came at least, so I'm gonna keep with them. I think Chargers still are one of those teams that they're decent, but they're still average. And I think Miami's the same way. But Miami's run game has just been absolutely outstanding. And I don't think Joey Bosa is going to be stopping the run game.
So that brings us to Dallas and Pittsburgh. We've talked about the Steelers team and their shortcomings. I could totally see Pittsburgh winning this game and just shutting everybody up because that's what they do. But I still think Ezekiel Elliott's just going to be too much. Stop me if you've heard that before. Ezekiel Elliott's going to take over this game, and I like the Dallas Cowboys in this one.
Yeah, I like the strong offensive line play. Even though I heard a nice comment, if Mike Tomlin was elected president, they would beat China in a war and then get invaded by Norway because of how they play up to, or they play down to bad teams and play really well against good ones. But, this isn't Landry Jones starting. The last game he started against New England. It would have been interesting to see how Pittsburgh played with Big Ben. But I still like Dallas. Prescott's getting all day to throw. Des Bryant, as much as he's not catching passes, he's getting attention from the secondary. Mm-hmm. Jason Witten's still putting up numbers. And then, if the passing game's not working, I'll just hand it off to the NFL's leading rusher. So as much as Skip Bayless has been wrong in his career, he nailed this one on the head. So far this season, Dallas very impressive, and I think they roll into Heinz Field, and we're big Cowboys fans this Sunday, and I think it pays off.
I 100% agree.
Stephen A. Smith better not have gotten his hands on this game because we know what his answer would be. Well, the Steelers are just so good.
And the black and gold.
Yeah. So,
in the fourth quarter,
if
Jerry Jones get the ball.
If Jerry Jones Antonio since he is on record of saying that if Tony Romo is good to go, he's going to play no matter what. If Tony Romo plays, I think Steelers win. If Dak Prescott plays, which I think is going to be the case, I think Cowboys are going to win.
Do we even have to go through this one? Let's just, Arizona Cardinals hosting the Niners Cardinals.
Cardinals, David Johnson, worst rushing defense is the 49ers. David Johnson goes off again.
Cardinals.
I'll just take a knee on that game.
Yeah. We've got a Super Bowl rematch, guys. The 7-1 Patriots hosting the 5-2-1 Seattle Seahawks. I think the Seahawks record is a lot better than they are, but I think we've seen that quite a bit. And I think Terrific Tom is going to continue to be terrific, and I think the Patriots could be 8-1, unfortunately, after this one.
Yeah, same. Going to go with Tom Brady. He's just been back with a vengeance. He hasn't even thrown a pick yet. I think that changes Sunday, but he's got so many weapons, and Gronk will have a big day, and I think the Patriots win the Super Bowl rematch.
Every day he's Gronking it. New England Patriots. Seahawks suck away from Seattle.
Maybe
because I'm stuck at this, supposedly.
Maybe Richard Sherman will run into another kicker.
Well, just remember, Tim. I suck.
Hopefully he'll run into Mike Nugent on the street.
Yeah.
You know what? That's maybe we can get Richard Sherman just to come dive at Mike Nugent's knees.
That's true. All right, guys, so I think I'll go ahead and wrap up this week's edition of Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripePipe.com, a fan-site exclusive network. Thanks again for tuning in each and every week. We are looking forward to hopefully discussing a victory next week as the Bengals be getting ready to circle the wagons against the Buffalo Bills. Everyone, enjoy the week, and hoo-day!
Hoo-day!
Hoo-day!